The tale unfolds in Seoul in the 20-something year. Right in the heart of Gangnam District, Yeoksamdong, there stands a building owned by Group D. And at its pinnacle lies the training ground for a group of elite gamers. These individuals are the top-ranked team in a game known as ROR. And at this moment, they are locked in a fierce battle against a player named Dex. The showdown has commenced. The game ushers these characters onto the battlefield. The 5 of them are pitted against a solitary figure, a mysterious player who goes by the name Dex. The seasoned players have had their eyes on this enigmatic figure for quite some time. And now, they are determined to impart a lesson. Their avatars charge towards Dex, but he remains composed and swiftly launches a devastating counterattack. With a single move, their leader's character is vanquished. Panic sets in among the remaining 4. They can scarcely believe their leader fell so easily. An assassin attempts to cast spells and conceal his presence, but Dex promptly discerns his location and thwarts the attempt. He then launches a counterattack, defeating the assassin. Their main tank and primary damage dealer are now out of the game. Dex continues his onslaught before they can regroup, and one by one, they are all vanquished. These so-called professional players are obliterated by a lone player. Their reputation as the top team in the game is shattered. The new Apex player is none other than Dex, a seemingly ordinary kid playing in front of his computer. His name is Yoon, known by the moniker Dan. Solo play Dan, Player D, QWERTY 123, and countless other in-game names he has used. But currently, he goes by Dex. His in-game name holds little significance to him. His primary objective in all the games he plays is to always claim the top spot. And now, having achieved this goal once more by defeating the professional players, his name ascends to the summit. Having accomplished his aim, Dex does something that astonishes the players within the game, particularly the professionals. They believe Dex is taunting them until the very end. After attaining the highest rank in the game, the number 1 player quits. The following day, a delivery truck is en route to deliver a package. The passengers are still discussing Dex and how he outwitted everyone. The passenger is still irked, being the fan of the professional team that Dex decimated. In this world, computer gamers are gradually dwindling, and there is one sole reason for this decline. It's a game called Arcadia, developed by 3 of the world's foremost companies. Agent Arbos Corporation, Electronics, and Silicop had collaborated in secret to create a groundbreaking new game. This online game wasn't accessible through regular computers. Players had to log in using a device called Dreamer, the world's first virtual reality machine. Inside Arcadia, a world of boundless possibilities awaited. A girl served as their mascot, and their advertisements were ubiquitous. A delivery truck was on its way to deliver the last available Dreamer, but the address led them to a dilapidated house. Inside, our main character was eagerly anticipating the chance to play the game. He quickly logged into his account on the previous game he had been playing. The most powerful character in the game was about to be deleted, and our protagonist didn't hesitate because a new adventure awaited him. Wei Young officially logged into Arcadia, eager to dominate this new world. Many games in our world had hidden features, known as Easter eggs, which could be simple jokes, power-ups, or even game-breaking elements. Our protagonist had hidden something in Arcadia as well, leaving the secret mission to an artificial intelligence named Alice to find the next bard for the game. Virtual reality technology replicates the senses by connecting a device to the user's brain, made possible by the Dreamer. Our protagonist finally logged in and entered the world of Arcadia, overwhelmed by the multitude of players. He began by checking his status window, naming himself Dex and starting at level 1. He admired the game's user-friendly interface and received his first beginner quest to eliminate a slime, the most basic and weakest monster in the game. As a virtual reality game, players needed to adjust their movements to move properly, with the game providing assistance through skills. However, our protagonist Dex required no assistance. His skills were top tier, and he quickly mastered the basics, effortlessly defeating his first slime. A new quest then appeared, requiring him to read 100 books, which left our protagonist puzzled. He felt that the game was being frustrating, but being a dedicated gamer, he headed to the library to tackle it. The Edeline Public Library was overseen by 2 girls, one of whom, with purple hair, seemed particularly intrigued by something. She observed Dex, who had been immersed in reading for days without pause. She remarked that this was a rare occurrence, as most people merely skimmed through books without truly comprehending them. It was unusual for someone to take a quest so seriously. The other lady thought Dex would eventually give up. However, Dex surprised them by approaching and requesting the sequel to a book he had been reading. This was the first time someone had asked for the sequel, indicating that he was genuinely engaged in the material. Dex explained that he had found intriguing parts in the book and wanted to delve deeper into its contents. The book in question was titled History of Arcadia. The librarian, Adeline, was left speechless upon hearing this. She promptly fetched the book Dex had requested, which was adorned with special markings. Dex inquired why this book was kept separate from its prequel. Her demeanor toward Dex changed, and she disclosed that the book was only given to those who specifically asked for it. Returning to his seat, Dex felt a strange sensation as he was about to open the book. Meanwhile, the game's AI, managing the scene control center, detected something. A special event was triggered, leading to a hidden quest. The character who triggered this event was none other than Dex. The book chronicled the tale of a legendary adventurer who had hidden a treasure beneath a lake in the beginner town, Adeline. There were numerous speculations about the nature of this treasure, but no one had ever managed to find it. However, one thing was certain. This treasure held the earliest trace of darkness. The legendary adventurer, Ezreal, had concealed it beneath the lake. Dex read this passage with great interest and set out to find the lake in the beginner town. He arrived at the location, gazing at the tranquil lake, pondering the enigmatic darkness lurking within its depths. Just as he was about to abandon his musings, a flurry of notifications inundated his vision. Dex, a mere level 1, unexpectedly triggered a challenging quest by venturing into the lake, blinding the protagonist with their luminosity. This quest tasked Dex with uncovering the elusive traces of darkness, a daunting endeavor given his current level. Rather than succumbing to fear, an exhilarating sensation overcame him. Beneath the lake, a mysterious purple glow emanated from a figure exuding an ominous aura. After surveying the surroundings to no avail, Dex resolved to explore the lake itself. Mentally preparing himself, he plunged into the water, only to be astonished by its unfathomable depth. Meanwhile, at Arcadia's Korean branch, panic ensued as the main scenario was unexpectedly unearthed. Kwon Monghan, the branch's general manager, fretted over this unprecedented development, promptly reporting it to his superiors. Despite the uncertainty, the team vowed to resume their efforts. Comparing the Korean server's progress to that of the US, they noted that the main scenario there took 3 months to surface, titled Brewing the Forgotten Darkness. Meanwhile, Dex persisted in his underwater quest, honing his diving skills and fortifying his vitality. Despite the unconventional nature of his pursuit, time was of the essence, as the monthly capsule payment amounted to a hefty $920,000, which he aimed to offset by selling in-game items. Continuing on this quest might jeopardize his goal of earning at least $1,000 per month. Yet Dex, a true hardcore gamer, felt an unyielding determination as he pondered these words. This exclusive quest set him apart from the game's other players, compelling him to press on in search of the lost item. Meanwhile, at Silikov's headquarters in Silicon Valley, 15-year-old Jenica Paul, the company's representative, was roused from her slumber by a startling revelation. Learning that the main scenario had been initiated on the Korean server, she questioned the wisdom of leaving such crucial elements in the beginner's town, feeling irked by the decision. Delving into the database, Jenica unearthed information about a hidden class known as the Bard of Anarchy, its description prompting her to ponder the potential game-breaking capabilities of this class. Despite its lack of traditional leveling and combat abilities, the class possessed a unique, awe-inspiring ability that left Jenica trembling and her scream reverberating throughout the building. Back in Arcadia, 10 days had elapsed when Dex emerged from the lake clutching a pendant, having finally obtained the coveted item. His relentless pursuit had elevated his diving skill and culminated in the completion of the In Search of the Traces of Darkness quest. The Black Necklace, an ancient artifact brimming with potent powers, was his hard-earned reward, accompanied by a caution from the system to carefully consider its use. Despite the system's persistent warnings and inquiries, Dex's curiosity led him to activate the necklace, only to be met with further puzzling questions. Frustration mounting, Dex discovered that a man was behind these messages. Amused by Dex's determination and hoping he could similarly open the world of Arcadia. As Dex prepared to inquire about the man's identity, the unexpected encounter promised to unravel new mysteries. However, a glimmer of light suddenly materialized before him. accompanied by a notification that his class had been transformed into the Bard of Anarchy. This alteration eradicated the leveling system and bestowed upon Dex a new attribute known as plausibility. Furthermore, a mission interface materialized in his status window, and a new character became linked to him as a player. Dex was promptly assigned a new quest. In the Edaline Western Grassland, fellow players were engrossed in battling slimes. One of them charged his fist with energy and used it to vanquish the creature. He felt elated as the slime dropped a valuable item, a slime bell, worth 50 bronze. His companion, however, became envious, igniting Dex's determination to grind even harder, despite an upcoming mock exam. Unbeknownst to them, someone was observing from the shadows. Dex pondered whether the system truly intended for him to harm these individuals. He had attempted to delete his character an hour prior, but the system had thwarted his efforts. Regretting his decision to switch to the hidden class, he realized that the Bard of Anarchy class hindered his character from leveling up, a fundamental aspect of every game that determines a player's growth and progress. Initially believing it wouldn't greatly impact him in the early stages, Dex feared the substantial repercussions it would have in the later stages, potentially creating a significant power disparity between him and higher-level players. Recalling the warnings he had received before accepting the hidden class, Dex resigned himself to the unsolvable predicament, acknowledging that he could do nothing to alter it. Despite his resignation, he hoped that the hidden class would prove beneficial in the future. Accepting his fate, he delved into researching more about the class, discovering the enigmatic stat, plausibility, capable of manipulating the world's rules, albeit at the cost of being irrevocably expended after use. This revelation left Dex bewildered, especially when he received a quest related to this class, tasking him with eliminating beginners who had not yet changed their jobs within a 7-day timeframe. As he found himself spying on these individuals, Dex remained hesitant about undertaking the quest, contemplating the moral implications. The game was about to be spoiled for these youngsters, but he had no other option. He was just trying to play the game like everyone else. Dex was on the verge of rushing toward them when something unexpected occurred. Another group had already attacked the newcomers, and it consisted of 3 individuals. They claimed ownership of the hunting ground and prohibited the newbies from hunting in the area. The protagonist was now puzzled about the identity of these players. Their assertion of owning the hunting ground seemed nonsensical. A woman among the newbies tried to defend their right to be there, stating that it was a public area for beginners. However, an older man among the opposing group silenced her. A player named Crazy Monkey began to threaten them, and the protagonist noticed that his name was already colored red, indicating that he had killed numerous other players. The woman started to tremble as the man warned her that he could easily uncover her real identity. He then ordered them to leave, warning of dire consequences if they refused. The woman began to scream for help, but the other players nearby did nothing. The player gathered his courage and confronted the group, emphasizing that the game should be enjoyed by all. This statement left the group momentarily speechless, but they soon burst into laughter. Crazy Monkey then began to expound on the real-world dynamics of the game, asserting that everything was determined by power. Someone in the group agreed, but before long, an attack was launched, targeting Crazy Monkey's companion, Dex, who regretted not taking down the attacker with a single blow. Dex then proceeded to engage the group in combat, swiftly defeating them. His in-game name color also turned red. The protagonist had just embarked on his journey within Arcadia. After vanquishing these players, he earned 1 plausibility point each. Dex still didn't know how to utilize this stat, but he anticipated that accumulating more points would be challenging. He then heard a voice thanking him. It was from the 2 newbies, who asked the protagonist how they could repay him. Dex told them not to thank him, as he would do the same for them. This revelation shocked the 2 players. He also advised them not to hold a grudge against him, as, after all, it was just a game. The realization dawned on them as they looked at Dex's face. Before he could utter a word, he was suddenly attacked. Dex earned 2 more plausibility points and was now eager to hunt for more, especially those who had been mere spectators to the recent events. They were frozen in their tracks upon hearing Dex's voice. Soon, multiple screams echoed from the hunting grounds. That very day, a rumor began to circulate on the main page of Arcadia. Every newcomer was saying the same thing. The real crazy one has appeared. An owl, lurking in the darkness, witnessed a man running for his life, crying and pleading for help. He tripped on a rock, sustaining an injury that reduced his movement speed. As he looked back, A pair of red eyes were closing in on him. A cloaked figure approached, wearing a terrifying expression. It was our protagonist, Dex. The man attempted to reason with Dex, claiming he had no reason to kill him. But Dex was already preparing to strike. The man threatened to report Dex's actions to the game management, hoping to get him punished. This statement halted Dex from delivering the final blow. He clarified to the man that it was the game itself compelling him to act this way. The man was bewildered, and then he was swiftly defeated by Dex, earning him another point. After a full day of eliminating players, Dex was finally feeling drowsy. In the game, there was a penalty for each player's death, preventing them from logging back in for 24 hours to deter addiction. Many players were now requesting the removal of this penalty. Arcadia's customer service department was inundated with calls about this issue. The general manager, already preoccupied with the main scenario, was annoyed by this additional problem caused by a single player. It was confirmed that this incident had forced an entire department to work overtime that night. Meanwhile, the protagonist's status window displayed that he had defeated 1,025 players, achieved through non-stop play for 2 days. Dex's body was already reaching its limit. The cacophony of screams and pleas had taken a toll on Dex's emotions. He began to question the righteousness of his quest, as he had disrupted the natural course of the game. He pondered why he had been given this quest in the first place. But at that moment, he couldn't bring himself to care. Suddenly, he heard noises nearby. It was the slimes. They expressed their gratitude to the protagonist for saving them from players who had been attacking them. This deepened Dex's affinity for the slime race. The slimes surrounded Dex, showering him with their love. This brought joy to Dex, as it validated that his actions had not been in vain and had truly helped the slimes. However, their moment of joy was interrupted by the appearance of flames. Dex bid farewell to his slime friends, realizing that the flames were from torches held by a group of players. The leader of the group halted upon seeing Dex and ordered everyone to pursue him. Dex fled, attempting to escape the forest, only to find himself cornered at a cliff's edge. The leader gloated, believing they had finally captured the culprit. Unfazed, Dex simply smiled as the leader purposefully leaped off the cliff, free falling. Observing this, Dex suddenly disconnected from the game. Following this incident, numerous videos began circulating on YouTube, showcasing the protagonist's actions. The comments section erupted, with many expressing outrage at the casualties caused by Dex. The player whom Dex had defeated began monitoring his movements and discovered that Dex was frequently near the slime hunting grounds, leading him to believe that Dex was a low-level player. He devised a plan for revenge, intending to level up and assemble a team to confront Dex. The following day, a gathering took place in a plaza. A green-haired individual acted as their leader, thanking all the players for attending. Their primary objective was to hunt down the player who had been targeting beginners for some time. This incident served as a reminder that Arcadia was a game based on the scenarios created by the players, and that all the events occurring within it would ultimately shape a new story within the world. The AI overseer, Alice, detected the mission initiated by Dex's victims and promptly crafted an official quest for them, catching everyone off guard. Dubbed Catch the Beginner Serial Killer, this quest sent the Korean branch into a frenzy, catching them unawares. Kang Tae-hoon, a man in charge, reprimanded his team for not taking the situation seriously, leaving them with no choice but to shoulder the blame and await further analysis. The urgency of the matter was evident as higher-ups became involved. Soon, an employee revealed that this was linked to the main quest, indicating that the player had swiftly set things in motion just 2 days after finding the main scenario clue. This rapid progression was akin to a seed sprouting into a flower in a mere 2 days, a process that typically takes months. Upon analyzing the data, the director realized their initial estimates were way off. They discovered a video of a beginner murder, revealing that a player had been systematically eliminating newbies at the slime hunting colony, a player connected to the main scenario. Despite attempts to investigate, their access to information about this player was restricted by headquarters, leaving the director pondering the player's identity, especially since the main HQ was protecting them. Further examination revealed that this player had already eliminated 1,025 others in just 2 days. Meanwhile, the culprit Dex was peacefully asleep until he awoke to find a game-generated banner announcing a special event to hunt down the beginner killer. With over 2,000 comments, Dex found the situation bothersome and contemplated ending the quest. but the thought of pending capsule installments held him back. He re-entered the game, pondering his next move. Dex hadn't anticipated the game actually generating a quest like this. He remained at the slime colony hunting grounds, an area now deserted due to recent incidents. As he contemplated seeking out new locations, he heard something. A slime seemingly communicating. Nearby, new players were engaged in their hunt, focusing on the very slime that had caught Dex's attention. When the new players warned Dex not to interfere, he approached them. One of them found his features familiar, and when Dex donned his cloak, recognition dawned. The player, still unaware of Dex's identity, threatened him. Dex smiled, then feigned a scream, falsely accusing the other player of being a beginner murderer, inciting the new player's anger and redirecting their focus to the accused. Before the accused could explain, Dex and the slime fled, leaving the other player surrounded by angry pursuers. Trapped on a cliff, the player who recognized Dex recalled a video on New, realizing they had been framed. Dex felt satisfied with their escape, and the slime, grateful, followed him, increasing his standing with its kind and earning him the title Friend of Slimes. Initially thinking this wouldn't aid his game progress, Dex received more notifications, indicating he had met the minimum requirement for plausibility. This allowed him to use his high relationship with the slimes to influence their stats, which were currently at level 1. As he absorbed this development, an evil smile crossed his face, finding the game increasingly enjoyable. Using the stats on the slime, a bright light emerged. And lo and behold, it worked like a charm. The system inquired whether he was truly committed to implementing these alterations, and naturally, our MANC character affirmed. Such was the might of the clandestine class, the Bard of Anarchy. A brilliant beam of light descended from the heavens, accompanied by a notification. The fundamental attributes of the lowly slime race had been transformed. They were now at level 15 and exuded a formidable aura. In every game, monsters were the quarry of players, playing a pivotal role in every RPG. As novices embarked on their journeys, they sought adversaries to test their mettle, often encountering what were known as tutorial monsters. The most infamous of these creatures in gaming lore were the endearing and harmless slimes. But what if these feeble monsters suddenly became formidable, rendering them unassailable to novice players? On the video streaming platform known as YouTube, numerous tutorials were posted on how to vanquish these creatures, chronicling players' journeys to greatness. One particular video seized the attention of viewers. It commenced with the player logging into the game, marveling at the game's graphics and surveying the surroundings. Then, the player encountered an exceedingly cute slime and prepared to dispatch it. However, the unexpected occurred. The slime lunged at the player. In a matter of seconds, the video abruptly concluded. The player perished and was unable to log in for another 24 hours. Consequently, the video went viral, and the comment sections were thrown into disarray as others suffered the same fate. This was the result of expending 1,025 plausibility points on the feeblest monster in the game, unleashing utter devastation upon the game's newcomers. The seemingly innocuous creature was no longer so, as novices found themselves unable to inflict any damage upon them. Meanwhile, our Mayan character lounged nonchalantly, observing the plight of the newcomers. He mused that this was truly a preposterous notion. Normally, slimes would not assail players unless provoked. They were exceedingly passive, yet now they had transformed into more aggressive adversaries. Our main character speculated that perhaps their nature had changed upon leveling up, a testament to the power of plausibility, capable of upending the game's natural order. Dex was beginning to comprehend the potency of the stat. He witnessed a group of individuals embarking on a special hunting quest aimed at him. A green-haired individual was now yelling as they found themselves besieged by slimes. One of the slimes leaped in front of him, and before he could react, a massive explosion rocked the area. The once docile slimes had transformed into formidable adversaries, swiftly dispatching the green-haired individual. The assailants were in disarray, attempting to flee, but more slimes descended upon them. As the slimes vanquished the players, Dex accrued more plausibility points, filling him with a sense of gratification. 2 hours later, his plausibility points had soared to 3,924, far surpassing his previous 2 days' worth of collection. The slimes were doing the heavy lifting for him, and the body count had reached 4,949. With 4 days remaining before the quest expired, Dex contemplated further empowering the slimes, only to discover that they had reached their maximum level. Disappointed, he nevertheless found solace in their newfound strength. Encouraging the slimes, He assured them of his reliance on their abilities. Meanwhile, at the Korean branch, the general manager seethed with anger, demanding reports from his team regarding the game. One individual reported that at precisely 1,320 hours, the slime stats had inexplicably surged, resulting in numerous beginner casualties. The situation was ongoing and communication with headquarters was non-existent. Inquiring about the extent of the slime's newfound strength, the director learned that they were now 10 times more formidable than before, instilling a sense of unease in the employees. Realizing the implications of this information, the director was taken aback. He inquired about the basic HP of beginner players, discovering it to be a mere 100 HP, meaning that a level 1 beginner could be felled by a single blow from these empowered slimes. The director swiftly departed, determined to personally investigate the situation, convinced that Arcadia could not have made such a grave error. Entering a room containing a capsule, he prepared to log into the game to assess the situation firsthand. Granted access as a level 3 administrator, he confronted the overseeing AI, Alice, who met his gaze with an inscrutable expression. Meanwhile, Dex found himself at the beginner hunting ground, perplexed by the absence of players. This was the current status of his personal quest. He had already vanquished 9,640 players, and with 2 days remaining, he pondered whether the rumors had spread, causing the slowdown in his kill count. High-level players flocked to the area for experience points, overwhelming the struggling slimes. Dex realized there was little he could do, as the number of players being vanquished slowed but didn't stop, eventually reaching 10,000. The system awarded him the title of Beginner Vanquisher and an intermediate reward, which he gladly accepted. Suddenly, black lightning crackled before him, followed by the appearance of a black orb, resembling an egg. As the orb cracked open, a familiar, a terrifying monster emerged. Dex was thrilled to receive this reward, but his excitement waned when he saw the name above the familiar, the Monarch of Chaos, the Demon King named Satan. Despite his initial shock, Dex was intrigued by his new familiar's immense power. Satan, however, reverted to a smaller, younger form, surprising Dex. As Satan turned his attention to Dex, the protagonist explained how he had received the reward and that Satan was now his familiar. This revelation shocked Satan, who believed he couldn't be under anyone's command without a formal contract. Dex found Satan's speech incomprehensible and stared at the Demon King, who now appeared as a child. Satan accepted the situation and perched on Dex's head, expressing hope for a good relationship. Dex felt strange with the Demon King casually sitting above him. Satan sensed immense power within Dex, and the system informed Dex that he could unleash his familiar's true power using plausibility, cautioning him about the demon's potential for deception and temptation. Satan's expression changed upon realizing that Dex could grant him enough power to vanquish all the angels. He directly asked Dex for this power, referring to plausibility, and began tempting him with promises of anything he desired in exchange for the power. Dex, with around 9,000 points, considered this stat a special element in the game and asked Satan what he would offer in return. Satan smiled and summoned a dark magic circle, producing an item called Nargle's Lament, a powerful cloak for players level 150 and above. Dex, thinking level 150 was excessive, declined the offer, stating he didn't need the cloak. Realizing Dex desired something more, Satan asked what he truly wanted. After a moment of contemplation, Dex requested the strengthening of the slime's power. The Demon King was taken aback by this unexpected request, but found Dex even more intriguing and grew fond of him. Following their deal, Satan expressed that the task was effortless for him and inquired about the extent of plausibility Dex would grant him. Dex offered all his current points, which satisfied Satan. They swiftly sealed the deal, making their contract official with the summoning of a magic circle, as dark lightning crackled in the forest. Meanwhile, stronger players hunted the slimes, taking advantage of the abundant experience points, turning the area into a prime spot for leveling up. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a strange voice incited the anger of the slime race, enveloping them in a dark aura and stoking their thirst for revenge. The players felt an overwhelming pressure from the enraged slimes, witnessing their terrifying transformation as they combined to form a colossal creature, the Slime Queen, a level 100 monster leading the slimes in their retaliation against the players. The Slime Queen unleashed a deafening screech, toppling nearby trees and posing a grave threat to the players. Dex, frozen in shock, faced the daunting presence of the monstrous Slime Queen. Meanwhile, he asked Satan about his familiar's involvement in the unfolding chaos. Satan explained that he had merely followed Dex's command to empower the slimes, but Dex was overwhelmed by the havoc caused by the Slime Queen. Amidst the chaos, Satan reveled in the Slime Queen's ferocity, expressing delight in her potential to rival his demon army. He disclosed that he had manipulated the slime's emotions and utilized a portion of the plausibility Dex had granted him to evolve the Slime Queen to this formidable level. Satan's power lay in his ability to enhance creatures to their utmost potential as long as he had plausibility. Now, the tables had turned, with the slimes hunting the players, even overpowering the stronger ones. The system introduced a linked quest, displayed throughout the beginner village, tasking players with protecting the town and vanquishing the Slime Queen within a 7-day time limit. Failure would result in the destruction of the beginner town, shocking everyone with its dire consequences. As the pressure from the slimes pervaded the village, the looming threat of the approaching Slime Queen prompted Satan to suggest covertly destroying the Guardian Crystal to thwart the players. Dex, exhibiting a demon's whisper, decided to observe for the time being, prompting Satan's pride in his master's devilish nature. Subsequently, Dex received numerous notifications indicating an increase in points, affirming Satan's earlier statements. Ultimately, Dex realized he would have to choose which side to support, intending to align with the faction that would benefit him the most in the long run. Meanwhile, the Slime Queen, with formidable stats and abilities such as rapid regeneration and shared consciousness, continued her advance on the village, a spectacle being monitored by individuals affiliated with the Korean branch of Arcadia. The director, focused on the unfolding events, faced a suggestion from Kang Taehyun, the department head, to shut down the server to prevent a level 100 monster from terrorizing the village meant for new players. Wang Jihai, the top designer, concurred, expressing disbelief at the appearance of such a monster and attributing it to a possible oversight by the headquarters. Amidst the mounting pressure from complaints, the director contemplated the chain of events that led to this disaster, realizing that it stemmed from a single player's actions. He revealed that this unforeseen scenario was not orchestrated by the headquarters, but was a result of the player's actions, causing a stir among the attendees. As per Arcadia's rules, they couldn't intervene in a scenario caused by a player, even if it led to dire consequences. The village faced potential destruction if the players failed to vanquish the monster and defend it. Meanwhile, parts of the village were already ablaze, with players and NPCs alike defending against the invading slimes. Amidst the chaos, a purple figure appeared, catching an old man NPC off guard. However, a player intervened, saving the old man, who turned out to be a security trooper named Bairn. Grateful for the rescue, Bairn expressed his thanks with a humble thumbs up. However, the elderly man was adamant that his actions were truly righteous and that he couldn't express enough gratitude to the player. He then instructed the player to seek him out after the incident, presenting the player with a unique quest and offering them the opportunity to accept a class known as Saver. This unexpected turn of events left the player astonished, as they had only heard rumors about this class. Recognizing the importance of this quest, the player promptly accepted it. The old man then shifted the conversation to the pressing matter at hand, stopping a monstrous threat from destroying their village. The ensuing battle raged on for 3 intense days. Despite being overwhelmed by the slimes, the players from the Korean servers were renowned for their unwavering determination in the face of adversity. Word spread among high-level players, who rallied to the village to provide support. Even beginners adjusted their strategies and formed a separate alliance. Players who vanquished over 1,000 slimes were granted the prestigious title of Slime Slaughter, bestowing upon them a 30% defense boost and 40% increased damage against the slimes. This marked a turning point in the battle, filling the players with newfound hope. As the strategy began to yield results, Dex observed the battle from a distance. The quest he had undertaken had already amassed an impressive 32,000 kills, much to the delight of Satan, who commended his master's demon-like prowess. Satan had accumulated over 22,000 plausibility points, and his familiar inquired about his next course of action, referring to the ongoing battle. Despite the player's inevitable triumph, Dex hesitated before finally making a decision. Donning his dark cloak once more, he surprised Satan with the sight of blood on the garment. Dex was about to take a definitive stand, and Satan, seemingly anticipating his master's choice, smiled. From that moment onward, they would align themselves with the slimes.